My involvement with the Torso murders ended with little fanfare in December of 1941. Officially, the case remained open and unsolved, but no new bodies were ever found, and no new suspects ever turned up. The mess at the Raven Room was hushed up, but there were those of us who knew that a ninth victim was found in a secret lab underneath the streets of Cleveland. They later identified him as Dr. Eisenstadt, an expatriated Austrian aristocrat who had fled Europe during the rise of Hitler's Nazi Party. Whether this man was merely the last of a series of victims, as the police believed, or the Torso killer himself, as I had always suspected, no one was able to say. His murderer remained unknown and at large. In early '42, I finally got my wish and was transferred out of Cleveland. By then, the US of A was up to its neck in the struggle against the Axis, and so the COI had been given new powers and renamed the OSS. I said my goodbyes to Mr. Sullivan and shipped out to Europe. Unfortunately, I couldn't rid myself of Dick Winslow. His connections landed him a cushy new post in England as liaison to the British Secret Service. By spring of '45, things looked good for the Allies. We'd made the push all the way to Nuremberg when I was called in to investigate a bomb-proof vault full of stolen art treasures. My reputation as an expert on Himmler and his SS spook squad and their crazy fascination with the occult, along with what they'd found among the miles of old mine shafts, had the brass calling for me in a hurry. Occult symbols marked the walls. Symbols that bore an uncanny resemblance to a bag of runes I still carried in my possession. It was my first solid lead on the Dahlia in 4 years.
You've been pulling junk out of that joint for hours now. I swear, those crowds hoisted everything but the kitchen sink. I think they even got one of my paintings in there, and I ain't paid it nothing since Mrs. Kaufman's art class in the 5th grade. Say, that reminds me.
You ever come up for air, kid?
What's that, sir? Oh, yeah, the mouth. Yeah, the boys all say I put the powder in Patterson. Patterson, New Jersey, that is. That's where I'm from.
What's your name, Private?
Private Benjamin J. Schwartz. Sir. Most folks just call me Benny.
You're okay, Benny. How about filling me in on this room you found?
Oh, yes, sir, Captain. I'll tell you what, it's a real creep show back in there. Kind of stuff make even Boris Karloff crap in his drawers, you know what I mean? Yeah, some of the boys tried to go back in there, but they got that place all rigged up. Petey was nearly crushed to death when that big door shut on him. Whatever it is they got hidden back there, they sure didn't want just anyone waltzing in and hauling it off. This is it, Captain. Good luck.
Thanks, Benny.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Black Dahlia. Welcome to a fast-forwarding and a change of pace from Cleveland for the last four and a half discs, kind of feels like.
So, any luck yet, Captain?
I'm, still working on it, Benny.
You'd be surprised to see that we are not in Cleveland for the entire game. We do need to accelerate the story in order to actually get anywhere in it. So, that leads us all the way past World War II, in Europe, and everything has kind of reset itself so that we're streamlined a little bit more. Our cluttered inventory has been cleaned out except for a couple of very important things. Mainly our bag of runes, which we still don't have any idea of what to do, Santini's papers, just because they still have plot to them, as well as the key from the gun. That's an error. If you happen to take out the key from your revolver a second time, it will show up here, but has no uses whatsoever. The other thing that still keeps with us all the way up to this point is all of our notes, anyways, which is super helpful because our notebook is going to come in really useful territory later on. But anyway, let's get our bearings. We have a wonderful painting that is right above a door that we need to solve in order to get in. This painting actually has Odin the Wanderer specifically on it, so we definitely know we're in the right place when it comes to what we know and what Pearson is here for. Surrounded by ravens as well. So anyway, this door with the runes above it, which are automatically inside of our notebook at this point. But this puzzle right here, I apologize because I did make a note of something in the Raven Room that you should have kept an eye on a little bit earlier. it doesn't really help a whole lot, because this puzzle right here, it doesn't really follow it all that much. Instead, the clues for it are a little bit abstract, because what we have here is we have a bunch of the planets in their orbits, except it doesn't really follow the geocentric model. It seems more heliocentric, especially with the sun in the middle, which is one of the clues. The other clue is actually kind of the painting that is up top there, which is all nice and bright and sunny. So, depending on what planet you move, a bunch of other planets move as well, and you're able to change where the light side and the dark side of the planet comes in. There's a bunch of ways to solve this puzzle, just by gently moving the planets in different ways in order to make sure we get everything in the right position, which is having all of the light sides of the planets facing up towards Odin. Once you have this, it's not automatically solved. Instead, what doesn't seem all that apparent is that the sun in the middle has to be pressed.
Good work, Captain. I thought it'd take a bazooka to get that thing open.
Thanks, Benny.
Hey, the brass is gonna want to hear about this, and pronto.
Better go tell him then.
Something tells me we don't want the brass to be here very soon. Well, we're inside of the vault anyways. And we have 3 things to look at, as well as the other side of the door, which has more runes on top of it. Again, automatically applied to the notebook, so unless you want to personally keep your own notes, which I'm gonna recommend, even though we are at disc 6 at this point. If you haven't been keeping your own notes, I don't know what to tell you. But it is in there anyways. Alright, so this chamber is actually kind of a gauntlet of puzzles. First we have the door, now we have 3 consecutive puzzles we need to solve in order to get to the next part. Those puzzles can be solved in any order, and I will say that the puzzles are strangely arranged from really easy to questionably, I don't know if it's even a puzzle or not, to this one, which is my least favorite out of the 3. It's another pressure kind of puzzle. It follows the same kind of structure as the one that was in Disc 5, the one after the pressure gauge puzzle. Except this time what you have is that you're controlling a little knob that is going around the little grooves there, and depending on how you move it, you will get different results with the bolts, or bolt springs on each side of the door. There isn't one way of actually solving this puzzle either, so it kind of makes me think a little bit. Is it a good puzzle in an adventure game sense if there are more solutions to the puzzle than one? Because I've certainly played enough adventure games, especially from very specific companies, that rely on just a very specific logic where there's only one solution to the puzzle. Dahlia and, I guess, Take-Two Interactive with both of their games kind of break this mold a little bit, but not completely. There you go. And we have 2 left in order to do. There we go, pull that one in. And I think we just have to go around one more time in order to pull the one on the left. There we go.
It's empty. Someone must have beat me to it.
Take note of the case and what kind of shape it is. It's not specifically said by the game, but you can start making insinuations and assumptions about what was in it. Now, it doesn't matter what puzzles you complete in which order. You will get specific cases as you go. This puzzle is my favorite out of the 3. It's the key puzzle. You have 8 keys and 8 keyholes. Seems simple enough right off the get-go, but it's actually a game of trial and error almost. Because you'll find that certain keys will fit certain keyholes once you turn them. Some don't. Some are really easy in that they only fit in one keyhole. But as I say that, there are keys that fit multiple keyholes. So you have to pretty much go by process of elimination what keys fit in what holes and where certain keys are supposed to be. I kind of like it, all things considered. It involves you kind of just looking down and making a little bit of a chart to say, okay, this key 6, fits in 4 different holes on this map. Okay, what overlaps in terms of what key goes in which hole? And then you have to do process of elimination. Okay, this key fits in here because it has less options than the other one. Therefore, making it so that eventually you will find where the right keys go in which holes. And one more. Perfect.
Damn. This one's empty too. I hope I'm not too late.
This one's a creepy box because of the eye. Well, anyway, okay. 2 down, 1 to go. The last puzzle, which I question if it is a puzzle or not. To be honest, it's quite a relaxing thing to see after all the puzzles we have done thus far. Because all it pretty much is a series of levers that, depending on which order you put them down or put them up, then pressing on that button will make it so that the little foot pedal that is on there descends a certain amount, and that amount has to be correct in order to actually push the gear that is right below it. So pretty much what it is just pressing that button, flipping the switches constantly in order to make it just go. I don't know, honestly, how I feel about it, to be completely honest. It doesn't feel all that puzzly to me. Especially when you get the puzzle right, because, okay, you did it. Now you gotta press the button like 8 times in order to actually get to the proper end of the puzzle. I don't know, it just feels odd in terms of all the puzzles in the game we have seen thus far. Oh, hello you. Well, we've finally seen it in person at last. In a very interesting box and case.
At last, the Black Dahlia.
Good work, Captain. We'll take over from here.
Take over what from here?
That gemstone there, I'm gonna have to ask you to hand it over. We're cataloging every item we take out of the place.
I'll do no such thing. I've searched high and low for this gem, and I'll be damned if I turn it over to anybody but my superiors.
Sorry, Captain. Just following orders from General Bradley. If you like, you can take it up with him. In the meantime, I'm gonna have to insist you hand over the gemstone.
All right, Sergeant. I'll play it your way. But you can be sure as hell I'm taking this up with your superiors.
If you like, you can fill out a requisition with the Quartermaster Corps. I doubt you'll have much luck, but you never know.
Soon after the war was over, my outfit, the OSS, had been disbanded. I'd found work as a bounty hunter for the State Department, tracking down war criminals for the tribunals taking place in Nuremberg. It was while I was still there that I received a hot tip from a former Austrian resistance fighter. Several former SS officers were supposed to be gathering at an abandoned monastery near the Swiss-Austrian border. Even more interesting was the small village near the monastery where several corpses had turned up in the surrounding lakes. They'd been dismembered, torso style. A frontal assault seemed too risky, so I searched the place for another way in. I found it almost by accident.
Okay, before I start talking about this next scene, which has fast-forwarded us again, I'm just going to mention that I've found that the acting in this game has been pretty decent up to this point, but that last scene completely blew. Like, I didn't believe anything that was going on there. Like, we got the Dahlia, and we just gave it up without a fight, and pretty, like, wussed out fight as well. I've met and dealt with military police before, and maybe it's just me, they don't have the same kind of temperament that that guy does. I don't believe him at all in that role. Yes, but anyway. We don't have the Dahlia anymore. It is somewhere with the military at this point. But we found ourselves actually more close to where we are in Santini's papers. But except this time we're kind of in a weird part of the monastery. So what we're doing here is pretty much just moving around, trying to figure out what we could actually do and what we can actually click on, including this.
I can't reach it.
The reason we're here is because we are dealing with more similar torso victims as well. But how to progress here is a little bit, off. Let's just say that. Pretty much we're going around in adventure game style and seeing what we can actually interact with, which is very few things, including this peephole here.
Well, that way's just a one-way ticket to an early grave.
Our tip did involve that SS soldiers were going to be everywhere here. Former SS anyways. But we also have this wine here, which is very surprisingly good looking. Turns out there's an Easter egg attached to it if we press shift and actually click on one of the bottles. Smile for the camera, Jim. So, what it turns out is that we were waiting for this moment.
What's that over there?
Yeah, this moment involves you looking at the point that you couldn't reach, which was above a well that was in this area, and eventually you have to turn around and come over to this area and just happen to shoot your flashlight in a certain area, which will actually lead you to the ability to possibly get access to that area high up above over top of the well that we can get to. It's very unique to this game, but it's also inconsistent at the same time because it's kind of the only time that it actually happens. But anyway, we've had enough puzzles up to this point, but I don't really consider this much of a puzzle. It's more of a fiddling around with mechanics situation. What we're pretty much doing is we have access to a winch, which has a support catch as well as the different gears. Depending on how the catch and the gears are put, either down or up, or releasing or not releasing, it will allow for the rope to be released, which means that there should be something hanging over the well at this point. There we go. There's the rope. And now it's over top of the well this time. Oops. New death screen, by the way. Yeah, so if you leave it the same way that you just release the rope, the rest of the rope releases and you fall into the well and die. So we have to do a little bit of fiddling here in order to make sure that the rope stays, so that we can actually potentially climb down, because that is our ultimate goal. That's really the puzzle in terms of working the winch, because let's just say there's a couple of different results that you can get.
Well, that didn't do much of anything.
Yes, unfortunately, looks like we made it so that the rope actually stayed put and remained taut, which means that we can't really do anything other than hang there. So let's do another fiddling around with the winch one more time, because there is a third and the correct solution, which is leaving all the levers down, which should make it so that the rope slowly goes down and is controlled. Well, as controlled as it can be. And you didn't think we were done with Disc 5 yet, did we? Yeah, it was short, but there's a lot more packed into that disc than we thought. So, I'll see you next time, everyone, as we go underneath the monastery and see what it looks like below.